Okay, we are on Crabby and the Whales, Sky the Blue Crab, day 4. Let me share my screen here. So our team cooperation goal is still help and encourage others. So think about what that might look like and sound like. When you help and encourage others, you don't just give them answers, you give them hints, and then you make sure that you're thankful and you encourage them when they are doing a good job. We are still working on questioning in our reading. So we know that some questions are easy to answer and some questions are hard. Let's think about what makes a question easy to answer. Here's a question. What is the title of this book? Here, let me show you a cover of one. What if I show you this one? Okay, so hopefully you thought tops and bottoms. Was that an easy question to answer? Yeah, it was right there on the cover of the story. What do you think the story is probably about? And then think, did you read the answer to that question on the cover? And where did you find the answer? A question is easy to answer if you can point to the answer in one place in the story. A question is harder if you can't point to the answer in one place in the story. You really have to think to answer a harder question. So let's look at our questions today. We're going to have, we meet a new character in the story today. Who is it? Can you name all the characters we've met in the story so far, and who are they? Is question number 2 an easy or hard question to answer? And then you have to explain why you think that. How long does Gertrude say that Sky has been sleeping? Is question number 4 easy or hard question to answer? Explain your thinking. Think of a question to ask about page 6. What is it? Is your question easy or hard to answer? And explain why. All right, so let's look at part 4.
Some grapes, Crabby.
Thanks. You're all right, kid.
Hi, guys. What are you doing here?
Hi, Tom. We just wanted to see if you could tell us any more about asking questions.
Right. We like asking questions.
Well, let's see. What more can I tell you about asking questions? Have you noticed that some questions are easy to answer and some are harder?
What makes questions harder?
Because you have to think harder to answer them. Here, I'll show you. Take turns reading page 6, and I'll ask you harder questions. Tara, you start.
Sky swam in one direction, then another, but neither direction took him home. Mom was right, he thought sadly. I swam too far and now I'm lost.
Just then, he heard a voice call his name. He looked up and saw his friend Gertrude Seagull hovering above him.
It's about time you woke up, she said. You've been asleep for months. I have? Asked Sky.
Let's see. Here's a hard question. How did Sky get lost?
That's not hard, because he swam too far.
That's one reason. Any other reasons?
Back on page 5, it said that he forgot how to get home.
Very good. Part of the answer to my question was on page 6. And the part Molly added about forgetting how to get home, that was on another page.
Oh, so a hard question makes you think about what you read in different parts of the story.
Right. That's one example of a hard question.
How about this question, Tom? Who is Gertrude Seagull?
That's easy. Says right here. She's Sky's friend.
Sam's right. That is an easy question to answer. But it's also a good question because Gertrude could turn out to be an important character, and the question helps us remember her.
Thanks.
Here's another question. Who's the main character in the story?
I think it's Sky because his name is in the title and he's the character everything's happened to so far.
I agree. Good job, Tara.
Let's go finish the story and think of hard questions.
And remember, any question you ask that will help you understand the story and remember it is a good question.
I have a question, Tom. Do crabs really sleep for months?
Well, sort of. When it gets cold, they hibernate. They stop swimming and dig down into the mud.
Boy, is that a gross mud movie?
So now you know that some questions are easy to answer and some are harder. You can find the answer to an easy question right there on the page. But you have to really think to answer a hard question. Which one of these questions about page 6 do you think is easy? Which one is hard and why? 1. What did Sky see when he looked up? 2. What does the word hovering mean? Talk that over with your partner.
Okay, so hopefully you thought about those 2 questions and thought about which one was easier to answer and which one was harder. Okay, so Crabby has sent us another challenge. He wants us to know if we understand easy to answer and hard to answer questions. Of course we do. Let's show him. Let's read this. It says, here is a story about my sister Cindy. She is smart. One day, my little sister Cindy was swimming near the shore when she spied a tasty looking chicken leg dangling from a string. Don't eat that, Cindy, I cried in alarm. It's bait. Too late. Cindy took a big bite, and soon she and the chicken leg were heading for the surface of the water, where the fisherman grabbed Cindy and threw her into a crab trap. Oh no, Cindy cried to another crab in the trap. I'll be steamed and eaten. Me too, cried the other crab, but Cindy wasn't listening to him. She was listening to the happy sound of music and laughter that came from the beach. Looking through the crack in the trap, she saw a crowd of people on the shore. What's going on? Cindy wondered aloud. There's a sign. It says, Annual Crisfield Crab Derby. What is a crab derby? It's a crab race, the other crab told her. The crab that wins gets thrown back in the bay. The losers will be someone's supper. Just then, the fisherman picked up the crab trap and carried it to the beach. Here are 2 more entries in the crab derby, the fisherman said, as he added Cindy and the crab to a bunch of crabs already at the starting line. On your mark, get set, go, a man shouted. Startled by his loud voice, the crabs ran off in every direction. Which way do we go? One of the crabs cried. Cindy looked around and saw a sign. Finish line. Follow me, she called to the other crabs. Cindy raced toward the finish line with the others running behind her. Wait for me, one of the crabs called. Not so fast, said another. Cindy slowed up, and they all crossed the finish line together. Well, look at that, said the fisherman. It's a tie. We'll have to throw all the crabs back in the bay. And they did. My sister Cindy had saved all the crabs in the crab derby from becoming someone's supper. Ooh, let's look at these questions. It says, who is Cindy? Why did Crabby tell Cindy not to eat the chicken leg? What is a crab derby? What happened when the man shouted, on your mark, get set, go? And how did Cindy save the crabs from becoming someone's supper? The whales learned about easy to answer and hard to answer questions today. A question is easier to answer if you can point to the answer in one place in the story. A question is harder to answer if you can't point to the answer in one place. The whales learned that any question helps them understand the story and remember that it's a good question to ask. Hard questions are kind of fun though, because to answer them, we have to think about what we read or what we know. Here's a hard question for you. Based on what you've read in Sky the Blue Crab, do you predict that Sky will find his way home? And why do you think that? So remember, here are your questions that you're going to be answering today, and really think through about which ones are hard and which ones are easier.